Hello there, Africa Engineering News family. How are you? How are you today? And happy Thursday, and or whenever you're watching this, happy today. Welcome back to another Africa Engineering News special, where we bring you all things engineering, innovation, and technology, and all around STEM updates happening across the African continent, as well as throughout the diaspora. Because Black excellence is out here, okay, all day, every day, 365, 66. Okay, on a leap year. But with that said, if you caught our promos, today we'll be talking to the one and only Kelly Hopkins of Correlation One. She'll be telling us more details on the current application that's available for folks who are interested in getting their data science skills up. So whether you're a student or you are new to the industry or you're a veteran, there's something for you. And so, for those of you who are live right now, or actually even if you're watching on demand, take a moment, take the next like 5 to 10 seconds and share. Let people know what's really good at African engineering news. So share with your friends, with your frenemies too, because you know what? Opportunity is opportunity. How you doing? And so with that, again, also do connect with us on that you can connect at www.africaengineeringnews.com or on social media platforms at Africa Engineering News. All right. It is where it is. It's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We out here. We're out here. And so for those of you who missed it as a featured highlight article on the website, high level before we bring Kelly in. Okay. Data Science for All under Correlation One is a virtual data analytics training and jobs program that's made available for free to qualifying students and professionals from underrepresented communities. This provides new pathways to economic opportunity in the world's fastest growing industries. And so there'll actually be 2 rounds of application considerations. The first round applications are due by August 1st. That's in a couple of days, fam. Okay, get to it. And the second round of applications is due September 3rd. All right. And there's actually three pathway, 3 application options, buckets, so to speak. So the one Kelly will be focusing on today is the empowerment application. So there's empowerment, women's application, and the Anaplan application, Anaplan for all application. So there's 3 options depending on which one you see fits you best for your needs. Yeah. So with that, I would like to introduce Kelly to the scene.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're totally welcome. It is my joy to have you here at Africa Engineering News Platform. Thank you for taking a little moment out of your day. I really appreciate you for that. I want to give you the opportunity, if you can, introduce yourself to the people. For those who don't know who you are, introduce yourself to the people, let them know what you're all about, and then we'll get right into it.
Sure. Yeah. Hello, everyone watching this. My name is Kelly Hopkins. I guess describe myself. I'm a techie nerd, data scientist by trade, and definitely very fortunate to be friends with the great Winnie O. Yeah, and as most recently, I joined the amazing company Correlation One as their director of research and development for their curriculum. And like you said, we have with 3 main programs under our this data science for all umbrella, like bringing data skills to the masses, breaking down barriers to it. Our DSV empowerment program, which is really focused on getting people from diverse, underrepresented, and minority backgrounds, getting them into data, and then the women focus on mostly on women PhDs, academics who are looking to transition to industry as well. And then also our Anaplan program, which is kind of a special program because if you know the Anaplan, the company, have a very sophisticated financial modeling software that they work with other companies with. So we train people on their custom platform to be able to be kind of experienced certified financial modelers. Which is kind of a little tidbit about all of our 3 programs.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, as you can tell, right? So there's opportunities no matter what level of proficiency you happen to be at this very moment, if you're considering applying for the program, which you should be if you want to do anything related with data, whether you want to be superficial like management or really get into the data analytics of things. This is definitely one of those programs where I would say anybody, even who has an inkling of interest, should consider applying for, at the very least, the Empower one, because kind of that, as you said, like that's kind of your base start of like getting into these programs, and more information on that as well. And we will also include links in the comments, or rather, associated with our videos across our platforms. So trust me, I'm gonna make it so easy for you guys to apply that if you're considering it, please do, please do. And so, I guess, yeah, so the high level, like, why should somebody apply, right? If they're sitting there, they're like, I don't know, or maybe like the better question is if they're on the fence, if they're considering, I don't know, like maybe I should, you know, like what's the thing you would tell them to encourage them to go ahead and at least put their name in the bucket of consideration?
Right. If I had to pick like one or two things, first of all, just the amount of opportunity and the jobs that are out there in data. They really say kind of in this new, industrial, revolution, not industrial, but like kind of the information revolution. They say data is the new oil. You'll hear that a lot, and so actually is like a very big gap in the talent gap. So there's more data jobs out there than there are qualified people to fill them. So there's a huge opportunity to kind of get a really good job in data. And with data, you can kind of do data in any industry, from healthcare to business, marketing, finance, science. And so that opportunity is a big reason why I was, advise someone to apply, but also just because we really kind of, especially with empowerment, really take you from zero to like whatever data career you want to go into. You don't need like any prerequisites. We give you all the materials to kind of learn basic programming first, and then we kind of really get you into the meat of our data curriculum. So it really is open to everyone who is willing to learn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And so, so given now that you have, incentivized us to join the program, um, who is even eligible to apply?
Right.
If you can.
And so our goal, like at Correlation One, is really bring data science to the masses, like I said before, and we're continually, work improving, our programs, our curriculum, and kind of as we're growing as a startup. So for right now, as long as you are in the time zones of North America, South America, Latin America, kind of the in particular our time zones. We have more information on our site as well. As long as you are within our time zone, then you're eligible for the program. So you can bring yourself as you are, all of your questions, all of your passions and your ideas. You really bring them to the program to kind of really be a part of something special. And again, we're working on kind of expanding out to other areas of the world, but really just kind of for now we're just looking for that time zone as only requirement, really. So
Noted. Okay. All right. And okay, so now you told us, hey, we should definitely apply. We know who is even eligible to apply. And so, given that we're expecting quite a lot of applications out of this, then, for those who are like, I really want my application to stand out. I really, want to, have a really good chance to make it through the sorting process. Like, what would you say is what makes an ideal candidate to make it through like the selection process? What
right.
tips can you possibly give for those
Exactly.
people?
Yeah, I really advise people to treat this as like, you're getting ready to register for a college course, right? So you have the syllabus, well in advance, and the good student would go through and try to see if there's some stuff that they could brush up on before the class actually starts. And so what we look for in our application process is kind of if you put in at least some effort into learning some of these data concepts for yourself before you start in the program. So we don't necessarily mean like going in and already know having code and being a programming expert, but at least kind of looking at kind of general data concepts, like how can I make sense of this particular data set, kind of what kinds of decisions you make like mentally when you're looking at how to analyze a data set, kind of just how like the basic language and concepts of data. If you can kind of brush up on that, like there's tons of great free resources out there. And if you can kind of come into the application process, showing that you've done some preparation, then that's like a really big thing that we look for.
Interesting. Y'all can't say I'm not trying to give y'all here a heads up, FYI. Okay, if y'all out there watching, you can't say when you do not try. I'm trying to y'all here.
Right.
All right, cool. And so, and you kind of started touching up on this, right? In terms of what is so unique about Correlation One's process, and could you expound upon that? Because I know you did mention that it is providing an opportunity for access to opportunities, right? Because and if you like, me, I do so many live streams, but one of the things that I'm really keen on is this understanding of just having something available is not enough. We have to make it accessible. We always have, because availability does not equate accessibility to opportunity, to funding, to education, to those jobs, to, people, right? To your consumer, and so making sure that, we're making opportunities not only available but accessible. It is so important, which is for me, I know, like when I started looking into this opportunity via Correlation One, I was like, this is awesome. So please kind of expound upon, like what's the unique niche, I guess, about how the Correlation One programs are created and centered really for their student learners. Sure. Or student or their cohort learners.
Yeah, exactly. So the main point that I want to touch on is really the fact that our programs are free for the people who go through the application process, who get accepted to the program. And that's actually a huge part of what sets us apart from our competitors, is that it is a flipped classroom or financing model, essentially. So we work with our amazing employers and sponsors to really provide like a very high quality program. And then if you get accepted into the program as a fellow, then it's completely free for the fellow. So we're breaking down that huge financial hurdle of having to come up with the money beforehand to do the program, or even worse, like sign an income share agreement where you tend to once you get a job after the program, you have to kind of pay a portion of your paycheck back. Something that we really don't believe in as a concept. So we wanted to kind of break down all of those financial barriers to our fellows, and not just that, but that also kind of sets us apart because it makes us like personally invested in our student learning and hiring outcomes. So not just a boot camp that just takes your money and just kind of you good luck finding a job. We're personally invested in kind of getting our fellows jobs and internships or whatever kind of outcome they're looking for, so that our employer sponsors can have confidence in us to deliver a high quality program. So we are kind of personally invested in our students.
I love that. I mean, let's pause here and circle here for a moment, right? The fact that now we're seeing the industry, right? Take note of the fact that we have to really understand the context in which our applicants are coming in with, right? Because and just straight off the bat, typically cost is a significant factor as to when and how and why somebody goes back, to either earn a degree, earn a certification, earn that next skill set to kind of make them to differentiate themselves, to be able to get to that next level of whatever that career path may look like for them. And so being able to make it so affordable, free,
Exactly.
for people. I want to be very clear here, right? Just removing that financial barrier, because that the reality is that, people may say, oh, if it's only $50, I'm like, there are people who literally cannot afford $50.
Right.
Whereas to some people, oh, I can afford $50. But to another person, that is at minimum like a day's work,
Right.
depending where they're working and how much they paid in taxes. Like, we really have to start thinking contextually about how we are valuing people, how we are evaluating them, and how we are saying, oh yeah, we want you to get involved, but then we say, put yourself by your bootstrap, but you hardly have any shoelaces to keep your boots in place in the first place.
Exactly.
And
you might not have boots in the first place.
Yeah, hard, right? Like, some have boots, literally don't even have boots to begin with. They're barefoot. They barely have a jacket to cover themselves. Like, there are people who are literally unhoused. So, like, these are issues that, when the academic institutions, when academia or these learning centers really begin to understand, these hurdles that sometimes an otherwise very competent, very eligible person, if given the opportunity to take away these additional stressors, that they could actually be really successful in those environments, I absolutely want to champion for that. Because I know, even for me, like, looking back in my trajectory to, me being who I am today, I was like, it was literally because of scholarships. I was literally the poster child for scholarships, because I could not afford it otherwise, and just opportunities where also I was able to get some kind of funding, some sort of financial compensation for, let's say, internships, or like if I worked somewhere, for the summer, where that aligned more with the career or the pathways that I wanted to get to. Like, let's be honest, especially when, like, if we're talking, let's say, students, it's definitely a factor. Like, if they cannot go out and, because they're even for them to be involved in that program, right, which is about 13 or 14 weeks, depending which season you take it in, that means that that's time that they are taking away from being able to work another job. Right. So understanding that finances absolutely are a factor in this, access to support is absolutely a factor, right? Understanding those human factors that really go into what makes for a successful student, what makes for a successful learner, a lifelong learner, right? And so, to me, I wanted to harp on that for a second and really acknowledge how huge that is, because there's still a lot of institutions that don't quite get that, or learning, settings that don't quite get that. And I really want us to be very cognizant of that as we're moving forward, and especially creating opportunities such as this, where you literally are going in focused in whatever that area of skill or competency that you're trying to improve in, instead of also making you take like 10 different classes for things that oftentimes tend to be irrelevant, let's be honest. And you pay money for those too, the filler classes as well. And then you end up getting out with like debt, and then you're trying to figure out how to pay it afterwards. And then it's this crazy cycle. So again, to me, I wanted to acknowledge that, like, very blatantly, and, just really, really big ups to you guys for noting that, because I really wish more spaces and more places would be cognizant of that.
Thank you, Winnie. Yeah, you really touched on like a lot of our key tenets in our culture and our mission. And even me personally, why I joined was because I believe that, like, one's passion and their motivation should drive them towards success, and over like their financial situation, their access, like their personal network. Like, you have the opportunity to network with like people at the top companies, like brilliant people, top institutions, and it's a game changer. It's a life changer for a lot of people. I've seen people go from kind of, from unemployed, from refugees even, who go to this program, end up with a job, fully employed, fully stable, and fully safe. It's just amazing. That's what keeps me going.
I support that. Put a pin in that. I support that. No, seriously, like, because man, like, yes, to allow people to come from a space, because seriously, because to me, I'm also like, again, I'm thinking of the immigrants who,
Right.
come, because I'm like, I'm of that group as well, where I'm like,
Exactly.
literally, like, looking back, I was like, as an immigrant, like, I was working so hard and I could barely afford practically anything.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm looking at people coming in now. I'm like, everything is so much more expensive, and like, you still have to somehow find a way to earn a living and
Right.
still, find somewhere to live and all these things, and then still figure out, okay, well then how do I pay for school? Like, because I know, um, sis, I don't mean to put your business out there, forgive me. But so like, I know, so like, I started off, both my sister and actually all of us, three of us, me and my siblings, we all studied at community college. Big shout out to the community colleges out there,
Exactly. I love it.
like, because it made college to me, like, that was the closest to affordability that I was going to get at that
Right.
season of my life
Exactly.
for higher education. And even that was a struggle, which
Yeah.
is why I had scholarship to attend community college. Thank you, Honor Scholars Program. And I know, like, even my sister, like, she struggled to pay simply for community college,
Right.
and I know, like, that's the reality for a lot of people
Yeah.
out there. Like, we try, we may, but like, and we sit there and we try to gloss it over and make it seem like it's not, things are not as bad as they are, things are not as tough as they are. But the reality is, it has to get to a point where we call a thing a thing.
Right.
We have to make it real that it's not just those who work hard. Because if it was just simply about working hard and working, 3, 4, 5 jobs to get where you want, then a lot more people would be successful. I know
Right.
people who work very hard, but it's not translating to the level of success that, they really are desiring. And again,
Exactly.
it goes back to that accessibility to opportunities such as this, right?
Yeah.
People are like, I want to go for this degree or this certification, but I just simply don't have the money. And, for, making education and skill set development, personal and professional development, man, like, to me, I'm like, this is amazing. This is really cool. And again, if you're out there watching, listening, hearing, if this is something that you're interested in, or you know somebody who's interested in this, please pin this, share this with
Yes.
them. Links will be included. Please do so. Please share this with your folks. Okay. And so you kind of also touched on this previously in terms of the preparation that one may need coming into the program. And so, yeah, because I was going to ask, like, let's see, for those who, haven't really, touched code in a while or ever, like, what additional preparation, would applicants need either prior to enroll, I guess, prior to officially getting accepted into the program, or should they start while they're applying? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, going back to my syllabus comment earlier, definitely, definitely start now. If you can.
Yeah.
Specifically for the programming language, our curriculum is based in the Python programming language. That's what we do all of our lecture in. So definitely, as much lead time you can get, as much pre-practice you can get before the program is ideal. But we do have our own kind of Python program before our official program starts. So if you go through the application process, you say, okay, I'm not as strong in my coding, then you kind of
Mhm.
get early access to the class in terms of going through 4 weeks of just Python programming. No data stuff yet, just kind of learning how it works, how to get your computer set up so you can be
Yeah.
totally ready to go, hit the ground running on day one. So that's probably
That's
like the
awesome.
one explicit thing I would call out overall. And but also just kind of we really look for people who have a heart for the community, right? So we are kind of building the most diverse community of data professionals like ever assembled. And
Come
and
on
so
through, data community.
right, exactly. And you really have to kind of be in the program to really know how much of a special space it is, especially for me. I actually went through the first cohort of our empowerment program. That's how I learned about Correlation 1. And it was just amazing. The fact that so many people were willing to come together and help each other, not just view as a competition, really as celebrating everyone on their own personal journeys. It was an amazing thing to be a part of. So definitely kind of, you know, the goal is not coming to the program just learning like yourself, but also to help other people along the ride with you. That's kind of the really kind of program and culture we're trying to build here. So.
Mm. Oh, listen, fam. Okay, do it for the culture, whatever culture you happen to assign
Exactly.
yourself to.
All the
Do
cultures.
it for the yes. Listen, that's all, and that will always be one of my biggest things. I know. I focus on a lot of things. Like my big like themes in life are like literally, right? Community, culture, right?
Yep.
Seeing beyond yourself. Like, what is the legacy of impact that you want to do, that you want to have in this
Exactly.
world? And understanding that, like, even when we advocate, we're not only advocating for ourselves, right? We're advocating for the others who may find themselves in those shoes in the next round of things of life balance, right? And so again, bringing it back to why data is so important. Fam, literally like every day at some meeting, at work, in all the things that I volunteer for, like in my own ventures, like seriously, like data is becoming literally like the underbelly of everything. But not just data, because it's just that people got comfortable with basic data. And so really what the shift we're seeing now is this new focus in contextual data, right?
Exactly.
Data that really tells the fuller story. Because I'll keep saying this, data tells you what it is. Data tells you what. Then it is up to you. Like, that's the sauce you bring in. You then get to bring your understanding, your skill set to tell the fuller story, to narrate what the data is trying to tell you, right? Because it can be manipulated. And again, through this program such as these with Correlation One and Data Science for All, I love that we are finally allowing folks who perhaps traditionally didn't have access to tools and mechanisms, and to be able to understand. So that's what. And also, just the other thing we also have to learn how to do and make more relatable is how we visualize data.
Exactly.
Because boring data is uninspiring. Right. But you can present the very same data, but visualize it differently. And somebody was like, I get it. That makes sense. That's why I need to get involved. Do you have any feedback on that or comments?
Yeah, data and communication are kind of very key skills. They're becoming life skills, really, especially when we talk about kinds of where people use data and bias data to inflict inequity on other communities. And what I like so much about our curriculum and how we focus on kind of diversity and inclusion aspects in our curriculum is that we not only teach you how to analyze what's in the data, but we show you how to analyze what might not be in the data as well.
Again,
because missing data is data in itself. That's what we stress a lot. So, for example, we have a data set that has like a particular gender column on a subset of people. So let's say you only have the binary, right, the male and female in your data set. Could that be indication of the biased data collection systems that data came out of? So whatever web form or application this person was filling out, were they actually forced to choose one identity over the other, rather than being able to reflect who they actually are, and who actually they feel that they are? And so how did that kind of affect the person that how did it affect them as a person? What kind of choices were they forced to make in that one instance? So when we see that reflected in the data, we have to realize, we have to kind of be able to ask questions on, is this data really reflecting what we intended it to reflect? And how can we make these data collection systems more equitable and more fair for everyone?
Oh, like you hit it on the head, right? This and literally across the board, really intersectional Intersectionality
Right.
as just in general is really like a really key factor right now, moving forward in data collection, in data analysis, data visualization. Intersectionality is such a huge thing. And for those who may not be familiar with intersectionality, right, it's simply the ways in which the kind of like the buckets of groupings that we happen to find ourselves in, whether that's gender, socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, nationality, height, age, right? These are all things that help create your intersectional identity, right?
Exactly.
And depending on how you identify in any of those buckets that happen to overlap, because the reality is they do mix. They like you don't get to choose to be Black one day or African one day or women one day or a STEM professional the next day. Like we are these things, and again, I'm talking about myself here, to be honest, right? I know, believe you as well as Kelly, right? Where we are all these things, right? We're all these things at once. And traditionally, sadly, in data collection, intersectionality has been seen as like negligible.
Right.
Only till like last week. Proverbially speaking, literally like last week, and like I have been harping on this, and like now I would say maybe more realistically within the last year or so is when we've seen this shift into what we're like being Black matters, being women matters, being female matters, being female in like a male dominated area sector matters, being male in a female dominated sector matters, being tall or being short or being skinny or being in an urbanized area, being in a non-urban area, being in a minoritized grouping, like that matters, being an immigrant, being a particular status immigrant, like being a person of indigenous descent, like all these things, right? We're realizing that, or rather the general populace is finally realizing that all these things matter. And this is why I'm so glad that data science is really like it's like the engine that's pushing for this new, like this fifth industrial complex of data, right? And so man, like even I'm excited because like I said, I was talking to somebody this week and I shared with them how I realized I used to think that dominant culture was scared of complex data because it was complex and complicated for them. But the reality really is, aside from the fact that as we begin to collect this data and research, it's only affirming the things that those who have been marginalized and most adversely affected have been saying for the longest time, anecdotally.
Exactly.
And we've been saying we need it, like because it goes back to policy makers say, well, where's the data? Show me the data. But we're like, you didn't think it was valuable enough to include in your research, and it's and at this point, I keep like I realize it's almost like that chicken and egg issue where they're like, we need the data, but you haven't been doing the research to get the data. So I'm like, I need you to fund the research so you can get the data, so you can realize, real world policy changes are needed, right? So at the end, for those of you who are like getting a little lost here, I'm trying to simply like get us to see the bigger picture of why it's important to become proficient or at least familiar and comfortable with data science. So whether you want to be a data analyst, a data scientist, a data engineer, they do different things and of different complexity, but we need all these aspects of data science, of data analytics and data science, so that regardless of what area of competency you happen to be working in, whether you're working in public health, you're looking into like racial disparities, law enforcement trends, harassment and assault, quick plug for HARP here, okay? or even just community policies, right? Understanding that the underbelly of all of this, if we are to make well-informed decisions, right, it has to be rooted in data and good data, reliable data, contextual data. right? None of this
Definitely.
basic data that we've been seeing time and time again. It's 2021 and we need to move beyond basic data and basic
Exactly.
data analysis tools, you know. So I'm excited. I'm super excited for this. Yeah. So go ahead and get us the chicken before you keep asking for eggs.
Exactly.
um
And I'm super excited for you to potentially join us in data spread empowerment. And I
fingers
really
crossed.
love what you said about both qualifying and quantifying the
Yeah.
inequality that you see around you. And I really
Yes.
believe that kind of teaching data and teaching data skills, data competency, really puts more of those tools in the hands of minority oppressed communities that can really kind of
Yeah.
fight back and be able to get the information they need in order to fight for the equality that they need and then that
Mhm.
they deserve. So yeah,
Absolutely right. Like, don't get us wrong here. I'll speak for myself. Don't get me wrong. Marching is essential, right? There's a purpose for that. There's purpose in boycotting or going and writing in, but there's a work to be done literally at every level of decision making.
right,
Right, whether you're writing to your policymakers or you are protesting in a march, or again working in research and ensuring the research is moving forward, ensuring that the funding, the appropriate fundings are being appropriated correctly, and making sure that the data being collected and analyzed is being done in an ethical and equitable manner, right?
absolutely.
Like I am so glad that you actually also called that out in the terms that we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion in data science,
Exactly.
right? Exactly. Like it's a new day, and I'm so glad that again that we're moving beyond performative diversity
Right.
in data as well. Where we're saying, hey, let's take a step back and really look at how we are designing. Going back to engineering, how we're designing the built environment, and the built environment is built and designed on data, which is that's why they're saying poor input equals poor output.
Right. Exactly.
And so,
Garbage in,
ah,
garbage out.
I,
Bias in, bias out. Same concept.
dude, how do go there? Dude, go there.
Yeah.
Like,
Racism in, racism out. Same concept.
family. You know what time it is.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know what time it is. And given that it is 2021,
Yep.
and there's opportunities such as this that A, allow you to bring the fullness of who you are to what you do and how you do wherever you happen to be doing it.
Yep.
I know that is so important, especially in this day and age, because it tags back to how historically academic institutions have not been teaching
Right.
contextually,
Right.
right? Where it's like it's the same churning of like the same type of student, the same type of information.
Exactly.
Whereas now, as we're seeing more people get comfortable and confident in challenging the status quo, because
Right.
that's where it begins. You have to challenge the status quo and say, why aren't we teaching this? Right.
Right.
And again, goes back to calling a thing, and understanding that we absolutely need to get back to teaching the full truth, teach the full truth, right?
Exactly.
And data can do that if it's done correctly, right? And also it goes back to, we need better representation in research. We need
Yep.
better representation in research review. We need better
Exactly.
representation in, again, going back to the source, data collection,
Yep.
right? If you're not, we have to ask the right questions. We have to ask, the right people, and we have to include the necessary people in the decision-making process to ensure that the data is reliable, it is equitable, it is representative, and it is, what's the other word? It's impactful,
Yes. I
you
agree.
know?
100%.
Yeah, so for me, again, I'll keep harping about this, and it will actually be a stickies on our page until the deadlines. So
Yep.
again, if you want to go find out more about the links that will be included in the article, www.africaengineeringnews.com. Oh yeah, it's scrolling right there. And of course, I want to make sure that you guys tag. What is the social media handle for Correlation One? Where should they tag? Do you have a shout out for that, or do
Yeah.
you have? where can they find you if they're interested to follow up with you?
Right. So again, it's again Correlation One. They're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are. Correlation One is. So you got to type in Correlation One, and you'll definitely come up. Look with the diagonal dots, and you're in the right place.
Exactly. I love when we make it so easy. We make it so easy, but I love it. I love
Everywhere
it.
you
I
are.
love it.
I know it's something that I'm working on as well. I am on the socials. I am working on kind of being more present on more platforms like Instagram, Twitter, trying to bring more of these cool tech facts to everyone's cool opportunities to everyone.
I see
But
you.
definitely connect me on LinkedIn. Probably the most active there. I'm also building out other platforms as well. So I'll be around wherever you are. I'll be around.
Just Correlation One her. Correlation.
Search Kelly Hopkins. I'll come up.
I love it. I love it. Oh, thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we go, what kind of I was gonna ask. Okay, so people have. Okay, so somebody was like, okay, I'm thinking of applying. Okay, cool, I'll apply. They've applied. They've got in. They're prepared. And so for me, I also remember looking back in the spaces where I've had to do my learning situation.
Right.
Support is so important.
Exactly.
It's not enough to just get in. You then have to fight to stay in and be successful throughout the duration. So, what kind of support can people expect through the program to make sure that they are able to be successful along their journey?
Sure. Yeah, so as you're kind of going through the program, you have support from dozens of instructors, program support staff, teaching assistants. We have about 40 to 60 TAs for any one program, and you're assigned to about 1 to 2 TAs, and they're kind of available like anytime you need them, pretty much. You have the support of your fellows as well, but really like your TAs are going to be the ones that are making sure that you're on the right track. If you have any personal issues as well, we really stress like TAs building that personal relationship with their fellows, so that they can say, hey, what's going on? How can we support you? But the person also as a student, as a learner practitioner, and so we really never alone. So it's a great. So many things I could talk about this program. I could talk all day, I'm sure.
That's not at least that's how I feel. I'm like, you should. I support that.
Exactly.
And see, so fam, y'all know, right? We told you can apply. You should apply. You'll be supported when you get in. First of all, I just want to thank you for taking the time. Again, this is awesome. This is awesome. I really enjoyed this with you.
Thank you.
And so before we kind of wind down, I wanted to ask you now a general question, because we really we've honed in on the various programs. And again, quick reminder, right? It's 3 of them, right? Empower Women and Anaplan for All, right?
For empowerment, August 1st is the huge date. That's when our first round of applications closes. It is rolling admission, but you kind of do get priority consideration before that round 1 deadline. So definitely click the link now to do it now. Don't wait, because it'll be harder the next time around. So,
and it's the 29th already.
Yes,
so
exactly.
you got a couple minutes to get it.
Do it now.
But,
exactly.
But you know what? Okay, so I went through the application, and fam, it's very easy to navigate. I will tell you that. So you can absolutely submit your application by August 1st, which I encourage you to do that. Yes. Please do so. Yeah. And so, so going back up high level now, bringing it, I guess, a bit more personal, because I know you. What has been your favorite part of being part of the leadership team at Correlation One?
Ooh, that is definitely a tough question. There's so many things I love about this job, but just really it ties back to why I joined DS4A in the first place. Just being part of this amazing community, amazing diverse community of data learners, using their data knowledge to for good, to fight for diversity, equity, inclusion, in the workplace, in their life, in society. So really, I get to do now full time. I get to do that work full time, not just on my weekends, on my nights. I really get to kind of impact like hundreds of people, all across the country, world, just really kind of equipping them with the tools to go out and fight injustice in their communities. That's what really kind of keeps you going. If we're in a tough week, a lot of work, just get that vision. I really am grateful that I get to have that kind of impact with my work. Really kind of lead that at a high level.
Amen to that. I support that all day, every day, man.
Yep.
Like all for the community, all for the family, all for the culture, like, and, equity, and again, it goes back to having that's why representation is so important. Hashtag representation matters.
Yep.
And obviously here at Africa Engineering News, right? That's at the end of the day, like our big, goal here is to own our narrative, right? What are we doing to like not only change the narrative, but owning the narrative of who we are, what we do, not only in the continent, but throughout the diaspora across this great big floating rock that we call the globe.
Exactly.
Right? It is so important that we take every opportunity to own back our narrative, to do our part, to be intentional in the process of how the narratives are being shaped. And again, going back to data.
Yeah.
Data is what is moving how people are, buying and selling. What route are you going to take? How do we determine this program is valuable? How do we determine funding, right? It all goes back to data. And again, opportunities such as this through Correlation One and Data Science for All are so important. So again, this is your quick reminder. August 1st is the deadline. Today is July 29th.
Exactly.
Get your application in.
Up to it.
Links will be included, and you can tag Kelly Hopkins. Get on that LinkedIn if you have any follow-up questions, or drop it in the DMs if it's African Engineering News related. If it is Correlation One, I will redirect you back to Kelly Hopkins. So I just, again, sis, thank you so much for taking a moment out of your day to share.
Always love hanging out with you.
Oh, thank you. And with that, fam, like, that's it. I ain't got no more for y'all. I appreciate each and every one of you out there for watching and listening. And again, if you like what you're hearing, or of a person, or a young person, a student, or maybe a young professional, or somebody looking to get into data science or shift into data science, share this with them. Let them know that this opportunity is available. And until next time, please stay encouraged. And also, here's a reminder, there's events, updates on the African Engineering News webpage. Do check that out at www.africaengineeringnews.com, or on social media platforms at Africa Engineering News. Until next time, be blessed, take care, and stay encouraged. Ciao.
Bye.